March 28, 1941. Richmond, California. The sun barely peeked over the steel skeletons of the Kaiser shipyards, painting the enormous slipways in pale gold. You feel the clang of hammers reverberating through your chest and the hiss of welding torches cutting through the morning fog. Steam and smoke curl in the air, thick with the smell of molten metal, oil, and sweat. Workers, men, women, and teenagers move like a single organism across the docks, rivets in hand, eyes fixed on the giant hulls that loom over them like sleeping beasts. Among the controlled chaos strides Henry J. Kaiser, a man in his late 40s with sharp eyes and a broad, determined jaw. He's not wearing a uniform, no, he wears a simple gray suit, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, but his presence carries the weight of command. You see him stop at a half-assembled Liberty ship, finger tracing the curve of the keel, imagining the Atlantic storm that will test its steel. "We need them faster," he mutters almost to himself, before barking instructions to engineers clustered around blueprints on a makeshift table. This is America on the brink of total war, yet the nation's naval production is painfully slow. Traditional shipbuilding, painstakingly handcrafted, meant a single cargo ship could take months, sometimes over half a year, to move from keel laying to launch. Every day delayed is a convoy of supplies vulnerable to U-boat attacks. Every ship sunk is food, ammunition, and hope lost. And here, amidst the noise and smoke, Henry Kaiser conceives the unthinkable, a production assembly line for ships. You walk closer to the waterfront, your boots crunching on steel shavings, and watch teams welding massive steel plates together like puzzle pieces. Sparks fly like miniature fireworks, and the air is alive with the smell of scorched metal. Women riveters, nicknamed Rosie the Riveters by the press, swing their tools with precise rhythm, hammering hundreds of rivets per hour. The scale is unimaginable, ships being built faster than ever seen in human history. You can almost hear the Atlantic whispering in the distance, as if waiting for these massive vessels to carry their vital cargo. Kaiser's mind, however, isn't on the sparks or the hulls. He's watching workflow, timing movements, nodding delays, and imagining a system where the entire ship could be built in modular sections and then welded together. A factory line stretched across acres of waterfront. Engineers argue, skeptics laugh, yet he walks past them unbothered, eyes alight with a vision that seems insane. "If we can cut months to weeks, we win the war before our ships even sail," he tells an aide. You feel the weight of that ambition pressing down on the entire yard, the energy almost electric, and you realize this isn't just building ships, it's rewriting what's possible. By evening, the yard is a cacophony of movement and purpose. Smoke curls into the fading sunlight, and the hulking silhouettes of partially built Liberty ships cast long shadows across the water. You can hear the distant whistle of a steam engine, the clatter of hoists moving steel beams, and somewhere, a foreman shouting instructions over the din. Each sound tells a story of human effort, ingenuity, and urgency. Kaiser pauses atop a scaffolding, gazing at the massive forms taking shape, knowing that soon these ships will carry the lifeblood of nations across perilous waters. This is the dawn of the assembly line ship. What began as sparks and sweat, blueprints and bold ideas, will soon change the course of naval warfare and transform the Allied fight against the Axis powers. But the challenge ahead is monumental, coordinating thousands of workers, standardizing sections, and proving that a civilian's daring vision can rival the industrial might of entire nations. You can almost feel the tension, the possibility of failure, as the first Liberty ship slowly rises from the water like a colossus, waiting for the Atlantic storm that will test its mettle. April 2, 1941. Richmond, California. Dawn breaks over the Kaiser shipyards, spilling light onto the hulking frames of Liberty ships in various stages of assembly. The air is thick with heat from welding torches and the pungent aroma of molten steel, but the workers move with relentless purpose. You step onto the scaffolding beside a riveter, and the rhythmic pounding of her hammer almost hypnotizes you, a human metronome keeping pace with the industrial heartbeat of the yard. Kaiser strides past the modular sections waiting to be welded, his eyes scanning each team like a conductor over an orchestra. "Section 7 to Section 12 align now," he barks. Sections of ships, each hundreds of tons, are lifted by cranes and positioned with precision that seems impossible. Sparks fly like shooting stars as welders connect steel plates, each strike a declaration of progress against time and tide. You feel the vibrations through the floorboards, the hum of electricity powering every tool, every hoist, every bolt. The genius of Kaiser's approach lies in its audacity. Instead of building a ship from the keel up in one spot, teams work simultaneously on prefabricated sections, which are then assembled like massive Lego pieces. Engineers scribble measurements furiously on clipboards while supervisors coordinate the flow of parts across acres of waterfront. You see the tension in their faces, the fear of misalignment, the pressure of deadlines, but also a spark of exhilaration, knowing every successful fit shaves days off construction time. Women in overalls climb scaffolding with rivets clutched tightly, their arms swinging in precise arcs. Men guide steel beams into place with winches, shouting over the roar of machinery. Each action, each movement is choreographed to perfection. You can almost sense the Atlantic convoys waiting, the freighters full of food, ammunition, and tanks that must reach Britain before U-boats claim them. Every rivet hammered, every section welded, feels like a direct strike against the Axis threat. Kaiser pauses to inspect a hull nearly complete. The curvature of the steel gleams under the rising sun, a reflection of human ingenuity and daring. Faster, he mutters, almost to himself, knowing that the next wave of ships must exceed anything that has ever been produced. Engineers consult blueprints, adjusting schedules, sequencing tasks, and calculating the precise moment each section will join the whole. It's a ballet of iron and human will, and the rhythm must not falter. Across the yard, cranes lift massive sections into place with a groan of protest, but the steel holds and workers cheer at each successful placement. Sparks cascade downward as welders secure the joints, and you feel a surge of awe at the scale and speed of production. For the first time, a shipyard doesn't feel like a factory, it feels like a war engine, a living organism pulsing with purpose. Kaiser's vision is no longer theory. It is manifest, and every completed section is proof that a civilian's audacity can challenge the constraints of tradition. By mid-afternoon, several hulls lie side by side, rising from the docks like a forest of steel giants. You hear the whistle of a foreman signaling the next phase, the creak of pulleys, and the muted roar of welding torches. The yard hums with coordination and energy, every worker aware that this is more than construction, it is a race against time itself. Each day shaved off production brings hope to soldiers on distant shores, to convoys braving the Atlantic, and to a nation still finding its footing in a world at war. Kaiser walks the perimeter, hands behind his back, observing the controlled chaos with a keen eye. He notes minor delays, subtle inefficiencies, and already imagines improvements: conveyor systems, better material flow, tighter schedules. You feel the weight of expectation pressing on everyone present, yet beneath it is a current of possibility, a sense that the impossible is becoming tangible. The Liberty ships are no longer just vessels. They are symbols, proof that ingenuity and willpower can bend the rules of production itself. May 14, 1941. Richmond, California. The morning fog clings to the water, curling around the towering hull of the first fully assembled Liberty ship ready for launch. You step onto the dock and feel the shudder of anticipation in the air, mingling with the salty tang of the bay. Workers pause mid-task to watch, rivets and wrenches in hand, as the massive steel colossus sits poised like a giant waiting to wake. Henry J. Kaiser stands at the bow, his eyes scanning the hull with quiet intensity. Behind him, foremen and engineers adjust final fittings, ensuring every weld is sound, every section aligned perfectly. "Ready, her," he says, and his voice carries across the yard, cutting through the hum of cranes and the hiss of torches. You feel the tension tighten as chains are checked, keel supports withdrawn, and the ship begins to slide toward the water with a controlled groan of protest. The first touch of water sparks a collective gasp. The hull shudders, tilts slightly, then steadies, gliding into the bay as if it had always belonged to the waves. You hear the clatter of tools being set down, the murmur of awe spreading through the workers. For many, it is their first sight of a Liberty ship in motion, and the scale of what they have accomplished sinks in. Months of work compressed into weeks, modular sections welded together with precision unimaginable just months earlier. Human ingenuity has conquered steel and time. Naval officers standing on the nearby pier watch with calculated astonishment. They know these ships are the lifeblood of the Allied effort, cargo vessels that must carry ammunition, tanks, food, and medical supplies across the submarine-patrolled Atlantic. "If they can keep this pace," one officer mutters, "we can replace losses faster than the U-boats can sink them." You sense the weight of that realization pressing on everyone present. The stakes of this launch extend far beyond the shipyard itself. Women riveters smile and wipe sweat from their brows, their arms still trembling from hours of hammering. Crane operators, their hands blistered, exchange glances that mix exhaustion with pride. Every single worker knows that this vessel is more than metal. It is a statement of capability, a defiance of the enemy's expectation that American industry would be slow, cumbersome, and vulnerable. You feel the collective heartbeat of the yard, a rhythm of determination, echoing in the wake of the sliding hull. As the Liberty ship settles in the bay, tugboats guide it to deeper water, engines humming in anticipation of the journey ahead. Kaiser watches for a moment longer, then turns to his team, already calculating the sequence for the next launch. You follow his gaze and see a line of partially built ships stretching along the waterfront, modular sections stacked and ready, cranes poised to lift, welders prepared to spark. Each hull is a promise. If the first could launch in weeks instead of months, the next could surpass it. By afternoon, word spreads through naval command and industrial circles alike. The Kaiser shipyards have achieved what seemed impossible. Ships that once took 230 days now glide into the water in a fraction of that time. You hear the chatter, the disbelief, and the quiet murmurs of admiration. Allies across the nation begin to understand that this civilian's vision has not merely accelerated production, it has redefined it, turning Richmond into a factory of hope and resilience against a relentless enemy. You feel the water ripple against the hull, sunlight glinting off steel, and imagine the convoys that will soon carry these ships into storm-tossed oceans. Every mile traveled, every cargo delivered will trace back to this dock this day, these people who worked in sweat and sparks to make the impossible routine. Kaiser already moves to the next project, but for a brief moment the yard holds its breath in shared triumph, knowing that history is being reshaped by human hands and indomitable will. June 10, 1941. Richmond, California. The morning sun catches the steel of multiple Liberty ships in various stages of construction, reflecting like mirrors on the calm bay. You walk along the docks and see an astonishing sight, hull sections arriving from one end of the yard, while welders, riveters, and crane operators seamlessly integrate them into fully formed vessels. The pace is dizzying, a choreography of human effort and mechanical precision. Henry Kaiser moves between teams, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp for inefficiencies. Overlap the welding with section placement, he instructs, voice firm but encouraging. Engineers scurry to adjust timing and sequence charts, measuring minutes, recalculating flows. You hear the hiss of torches, the clatter of riveting guns, and the low groan of steel plates being lifted into place. Every sound is a testament to a system functioning beyond traditional imagination, a civilian's blueprint reshaping industrial reality. Women and men work in coordinated squads, moving from station to station with practiced precision. Each riveter knows the next move before it happens, each crane operator times lifts to the heartbeat of the assembly line. You can feel the rhythm. Steel arrives, sections join, welders spark, bolts are driven, and the hull inches closer to completion. Where a single ship once required months, the yard now produces one every few days, the pace accelerating as experience, coordination, and modular innovation compound. Kaiser stops atop a scaffold to survey the scene. The yard stretches like a living organism, alive with motion and possibility. He notes small delays, a misaligned section here, a welding spark too slow there, and quickly adapts processes to smooth the flow. You sense his mind always a step ahead. Calculating the next improvement, the next efficiency, the next reduction in time from keel laying to launch. It is not magic, it is ingenuity, planning, and relentless drive. By mid-afternoon, two ships slide simultaneously toward the water, tugboats ready at their sides. The launches are staggered but almost imperceptibly, a continuous rhythm of production. Workers cheer at each successful hull entering the bay, but there is no pause. Another section has already arrived, another hull awaits assembly, and the cycle continues. You feel the magnitude of what is happening. The pace is no longer measured in weeks but in days. The impossible becomes routine, and the yard hums with the energy of a nation mobilizing. Naval officers visiting from the East Coast stand along the waterfront, mouths agape at the speed of production. Every 4 days, one whispers, barely audible over the roar of cranes and welders. They're building ships faster than we ever imagined possible. You sense the disbelief mingling with hope. This is more than efficiency. It is a lifeline to convoys braving the U-boat-infested Atlantic, a direct counter to the threat of supply shortages that could alter the course of the war. As the sun begins to dip behind the shipyard cranes, shadows stretch across the water and the enormous hulls. Sparks still fly from welding stations, echoing in the twilight like fireflies, and workers move with the same relentless precision, undeterred by fatigue. You can almost hear the hum of the Atlantic calling these ships, the waves awaiting their cargo, the distant gunfire of convoys that will rely on them. Henry Kaiser pauses for a moment, gaze sweeping the bustling yard. He knows the challenge is far from over: more ships, more speed, more coordination. But for now, the assembly line proves its worth. You feel the tension of anticipation, the electric pulse of achievement, and the quiet certainty that these ships, appearing every 4 days, are about to tip the balance in a war fought across oceans. July 3, 1941. San Francisco Bay, California. A Liberty ship named Patrick Henry slides gracefully into the water, steel glinting under the morning sun. You hear the low rumble of engines and the squeal of metal as it settles into the bay. Tugboats guide the vessel carefully toward the open sea, the air thick with salt, smoke, and the scent of tarred decks. Crew members scramble on board, checking lifeboats, hoisting flags, and securing cargo holds stacked with crates of ammunition, rations, and fuel. Henry Kaiser stands on the pier, binoculars in hand, scanning the horizon as if measuring the ship against some invisible standard. You can feel the nervous energy radiating from every worker, sailor, and foreman present. This is more than a launch, it is a test, the moment when weeks of modular construction, long hours, and unprecedented coordination are sent into the ultimate proving ground, the Atlantic Ocean. By noon, the Patrick Henry begins its journey southward, past the Golden Gate and into the open waters, waves slapping against the hull. You can almost hear the distant echo of German U-boats lurking in the Atlantic, the invisible threat that makes every cargo vessel vital. Naval officers monitor the vessel's departure, taking note of its speed and stability, calculating how soon these ships could begin to replace losses in convoys threatened by relentless submarine attacks. Back in the yard, cranes already begin lifting the next hulls, each move orchestrated with military precision. Sparks fly from welding stations, riveters hammer in time to the rhythm of efficiency, and every worker knows that the next Liberty ship must launch even faster than the last. You feel the weight of expectation in the air. America is watching, allies are depending, and the enemy would soon witness a production miracle they cannot stop. Weeks pass and the Liberty ships begin arriving in ports along the eastern seaboard and Britain. Sailors and dockworkers alike marvel at the speed of construction, the consistency of design, and the durability of the vessels. You hear tales of ships appearing in 4-day intervals, a pace that was once unthinkable. The impact is immediate. Convoys no longer suffer catastrophic shortages, supply lines remain steady, and morale surges among both soldiers and civilians who realize that industrial ingenuity has become a weapon as powerful as any tank or fighter plane. Kaiser, visiting a dock in Norfolk, Virginia, watches a vessel disgorge its cargo, crew members shouting instructions, cranes lifting tanks and trucks onto waiting trains. He notes the efficiency of unloading as carefully as he observed assembly, always thinking a step ahead. You sense the quiet thrill of validation. The dream of producing ships at this unprecedented speed is no longer theory. The Liberty ships are doing their job, defying expectation, and demonstrating that a civilian's vision can change the tides of war as decisively as any battle on land, sea, or air. Across the Atlantic, Allied commanders begin to adjust strategies around the constant stream of new vessels. Convoys can be larger, better equipped, and more resilient. You can almost feel the shock in their eyes when they see supply lines replenished at a rate that outpaces German calculations. Each ship that arrives reinforces the momentum of the war effort, proving that production, innovation, and human determination can alter the balance of conflict just as profoundly as any victory on the battlefield. August 21, 1942. Richmond, California. The shipyard stretches for miles along the waterfront, a symphony of steel, steam, and motion. You step onto the catwalk above the docks and see Liberty ships in every stage of assembly, some just skeletal frameworks, others fully welded hulls waiting to slide into the water. Cranes swing massive steel sections with precision, sparks fly from welding stations, and the rhythmic pounding of rivets fills the air like a drumbeat of war. Henry Kaiser walks briskly between teams, clipboard in hand, eyes darting to every corner of the yard. He pauses at a welding station, observing a young woman swing her rivet gun with practiced accuracy. "Faster on section 12, he calls, voice carrying over the clang of metal. Engineers adjust modular sections, recalibrate lifts, and track workflow with stopwatches. Every movement is choreographed to shave hours, then minutes, off the construction timeline. You can feel the tension and focus, the heartbeat of a yard determined to outpace the enemy itself. By now, the yard has achieved what was once considered impossible. Liberty ships are leaving the docks every 4 days. You watch as one hull slides into the bay, immediately followed by another, then another, a continuous flow of steel behemoths ready to carry supplies across storm-tossed seas. The scale of production is dizzying, workers barely pause, moving seamlessly from one task to the next. Their actions synchronized with almost mechanical precision. Sparks fly like fireflies against the fatting sunlight, illuminating faces streaked with sweat and grime, yet alight with pride. Naval officers, engineers, and visiting dignitaries crowd the docks to witness this unprecedented pace. "They're doing what?" one officer whispers, disbelief etched across his face. You can feel the shock radiating through the group, the realization that a civilian's vision has not merely increased output, it has rewritten the rules of naval construction. Convoys that once risked shortages now sail with confidence, supplies arriving on schedule, and the Atlantic becomes a stage where innovation outpaces destruction. The modular system hums like a living organism. Sections are prefabricated in separate bays, lifted into place, welded, and riveted in a seamless chain. Workers move in squads, cranes pivot in perfect arcs, and supervisors track every detail with an intensity bordering on obsession. You sense the urgency in every gesture. Mistakes are unacceptable, delays costly, yet the human energy is palpable, driven by purpose, patriotism, and the knowledge that the lives of soldiers, the success of convoys, and the course of the war depend on their labor. As evening descends, the yard glows with the light of welding arcs and lanterns, and ships glide steadily into the bay in a relentless parade. You can almost hear the waves whispering, as if the Atlantic itself acknowledges the miracle unfolding along its edge. Henry Kaiser surveys the activity from a scaffold, nodding to foremen adjusting workflows, already thinking ahead to the next wave of ships. The 4-day rhythm has become a heartbeat, steady, unstoppable, and transformative. At the far end of the docks, tugboats guide hulls toward the open ocean, and you can see the awe on the faces of sailors preparing to take command. These vessels, once thought impossible to produce at this speed, now form a lifeline across the Atlantic. You feel the magnitude of the moment, every spark, every rivet, every coordinated step of thousands of workers contributing to a relentless war-defining machine. October 12, 1942. North Atlantic, aboard a Liberty ship en route to Liverpool. The wind whips across the deck, salt stinging your face, and the ship rolls with a steady rhythm as waves crash against the hull. You hear the creak of steel and the hum of engines, feel the vibration under your feet, and realize this vessel is more than a cargo carrier. It is proof of human ingenuity overcoming the impossible. Convoys stretch ahead and behind, each Liberty ship a critical link in a chain delivering tanks, ammunition, medical supplies, and food to Allied forces across Europe. Captain James Harkins walks the deck, binoculars raised, scanning the horizon for U-boat silhouettes. His crew moves with practiced efficiency, securing cargo and manning the guns, aware that their lives and the success of the mission depend on both skill and the extraordinary ship beneath them. You sense the tension, the constant vigilance required to traverse waters that have swallowed thousands of freighters, yet there is an undercurrent of pride and confidence. These are not ordinary ships, they are the product of a revolution in production that began in a California shipyard months ago. Back in Richmond, the Kaiser shipyards have not slowed. New hulls glide into the bay every 4 days, modular sections prefabricated and ready for assembly with near-military precision. You see foremen coordinating dozens of squads, engineers adjusting workflow on the fly, welders and riveters moving in near-perfect rhythm. The industrial tempo has become a force of its own, a relentless engine sustaining the lifeblood of the Allied war effort. Each ship launched reinforces the supply line, each successful convoy strengthens the front lines in Europe and North Africa. Naval commanders on both sides begin to grasp the significance. For the Allies, the steady stream of Liberty ships allows larger, better protected convoys, reducing losses and enabling more aggressive operations. For the Axis, the relentless output is a shock. U-boats can sink ships, but they cannot keep pace with production. You feel the strategic shift in the air. Industrial innovation has become as decisive as any battle. One civilian's vision, Henry J. Kaiser's assembly line techniques, has transformed not just shipbuilding but the very dynamics of the Atlantic War. In ports across Britain, dockworkers unload these vessels with awe, astonished by the consistency, speed, and durability of the ships. You hear tales of crews marveling at how quickly each Liberty ship was built, the precision of the modular sections, and the reliability of their engines. Soldiers receiving tanks, artillery, and rations understand the chain of effort that brought them from a distant shipyard to the front lines. The war effort is no longer constrained by the limitations of traditional industry. It surges forward on the steel-backed certainty of rapid production. Kaiser, visiting a convoy in Liverpool, observes the unloading, nodding improvements for the next series of ships. You can sense his relentless drive. There is no pride in past accomplishments, only the constant pursuit of better, faster, more efficient production. He understands that each hull represents not just metal and rivets, but lives saved, battles won, and momentum gained against a formidable enemy. Every 4 days, a new ship emerges, each one a tangible expression of what human determination and innovation can achieve under pressure. The Liberty ships become legends in their own time. Crews, engineers, and workers alike recognize that the impossible has become reality. You feel the cumulative impact. The Atlantic convoys are sustained, the Allies gain strategic advantage, and one civilian's daring vision alters the trajectory of the war. Across oceans and continents, the ships carry not just cargo, but the proof that ingenuity, coordination, and relentless effort can change history.